This may be the best DLC of my entire lifetime. Like me. What is up, everybody? MTK here, and today we will be reviewing Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, the much anticipated DLC for Elden Ring. And before we get started here, I just want to say this is probably the best, it might be the best DLC that's ever been made. This is the most fun I have ever had playing a DLC, and the amount of content that they jam packed into this DLC is absolutely amazing. If you watched my streams, I actually started calling it Elden Ring 2 because it just feels like a sequel more than a DLC. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about all the aspects of why I think that and how I got to those conclusions. But before we do that, please like and subscribe so you can follow my channel and you won't miss any of this juicy content. Also, I do want to say just a little disclaimer. This is will be mostly spoiler free. Obviously, we're riding around in the world here, so you will see some of the game, but we will not be opening the map or looking at any of the new weapons or anything like that. So as to keep it as fresh for you as possible. So let's get started by talking about what has probably already struck you, and that is the visuals. I mean, just look at that. That is absolutely amazing. The game is just beautiful, as to be expected. I mean, the base game was beautiful as well. This is pretty much the same art style, maybe a little darker and gloomier in some ways. But somehow they took the same thing, but to me it's even more beautiful than the base game was. It's the same but better is how I would put it. Um, the art style is still amazing, and the music, which I know sometimes people might say, why do you talk about the music and when you're talking about the visuals? I just feel like the music is an extension of the visuals. So to me, I always include it in that section. But the music is awesome. It is everything that you would expect from a FromSoft game, from those types of soundtracks, is in this DLC. They're immersive, they're thrilling, they grab you and pull you in. Get over here! Masterful sound design. I couldn't be happier with the music in this game, honestly. The next thing is the gameplay. Let's move on to the gameplay. Oh, and I do want to make a quick mention here that the performance on console was absolutely flawless. I had no problems whatsoever. I can't speak to the performance on PC, obviously, but on console, it was immaculate. So on to the gameplay. How does the gameplay stack up here? So combat, we'll cover combat first. The combat is more of the same. You won't have any new interesting mechanics introduced or anything like that. You're just gonna be more of the same of what the base game offered, which is to be expected. It is a DLC after all. But the weapon types and items and the variety that they added there make it super fun and interesting nonetheless. There's a ton of cookbooks, ton of new armor sets, ton of new consumables, new weapon types. I think 8 of them altogether. There is new talismans. So there are plenty of new things to keep the game fresh and interesting throughout your playthroughs and multiple playthroughs. The replayability is off the charts for this DLC, especially if you couple it with the base game and just do a run straight through both of them. Yeah, you could do that for the rest of your life if you wanted to. The world design, that's the next thing. Then this might be the shining star of the entire DLC, and that is the way that they incorporated the verticality into this. The map is pretty good size. I'm not trying to downplay the map and the size of the actual content that they put together here. However, the map, although being good size, doesn't do justice the actual sheer size of it, because there are so many layers to what you see on the map. There's lower sections underneath what you can see. There's higher sections up above what you can see. The verticality here is just absolutely amazing, and FromSoft is well known for their level design, so I can't say that is probably surprising to you, but it is something that they once again knocked completely out of the park. The level design, world design for this DLC is absolutely crazy, and one of the things that you'll experience when you jump into this is that if you can see it, you can probably get to it. Like, there's 90% of the time you're going to be able to go wherever you're looking at, which is absolutely insane. Um, it's just something you have to get in and get your hands on. But it was something that was very surprising and super well done, in my opinion. So let's talk about the bosses. The bosses in this DLC are some of my favorite bosses in all of Souls games. Um, Now I know that that's a big statement there, because there are some really classic, awesome bosses throughout the games that FromSoft has produced. But I'm not kidding when I say it. These bosses, the ones that they do well, are done really well. There are some that maybe they're not quite as interesting. Maybe they're a little gimmicky, or uh, a little kind of same old. But the ones that they knock out of the park, they really knock out of the park. And I have just fallen in love with those boss fights and the lore behind them, and everything. The look of them. You will not be disappointed with the boss fights in this game. So something negative,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
so that I don't sound like a fanboy here, although I am one, is that the enemy variety is lacking a little bit, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think they overdo it, but they do reuse a lot of enemy types. You can see those soldiers I just killed, are pretty standard Elden Ring soldiers. Um, so they do reuse a lot of enemy types. There are new ones, obviously. There's just not quite as many as maybe I would like to have seen. But it's not bad at all. The enemy variety will stay fresh, and it will be interesting for you. That's just the only sort of negative thing I could even think of. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is kind of a hot topic when it comes to this DLC, and that is the difficulty. So let's answer the question: is it too hard? Because I see a lot of talk about this DLC is just, you saw the Steam reviews. It's too difficult, too hard to be fun. The enemy attack strings are too long. The bosses are too hard. All these different kinds of things. My answer to that is yes. The DLC is too hard. Now, I say that not as a blanket statement, because there's a big caveat to that. I think for the average casual gamer, this DLC will probably be too hard for you to enjoy. However, I don't think that this DLC was made for you, and I don't think it should have been made for you. This DLC was made for more hardcore Souls and FromSoft fans that enjoy the challenge and want something more that'll make them sweat a little. And I'm not gonna lie, you will sweat. There are some tough bosses. just the basic enemies can really f you up. And you're gonna have to keep your head on a swivel, check your corners, do all the get good souls practices, and that's a good thing. That's how they should have done it. That's how they did do it, and I'm grateful that they did it that way. It's not going to appeal to everybody, but I don't think it should be. And to expect that they would make a DLC for Elden Ring and just make it kind of milk toast, I don't think that that's a realistic expectation, nor would it be a good direction to go. So let's move on and talk about the story real quick. Now, I'm not going to say a lot here because I do not want to spoil or give away anything to anybody. But what I will say is number one, it is packed with lore in this game. There are all kinds of interesting tidbits and things that you'll find, people you'll talk to that will shed light on the past game, the base game. It will give you more insight into what's going on in the DLC. It's just absolutely full of lore for you to sink your teeth into. The other thing is, in true FromSoft fashion, it's a very deep, thrilling, and immersive story. 10 out of 10. Very gripping. You will not be disappointed in the story of this DLC. If you're a Souls fan and you love the FromSoft storytelling style, then you are absolutely going to be satisfied when it comes to this DLC. So, in conclusion, I have to say that this DLC could very well be the best DLC of all time. Of all games, not just FromSoft games. It might be the best DLC ever made. And that's a big statement, and I understand that there's a lot of personal opinion that goes into that. I'm giving my personal opinion. I think that it should at least be in the question or in the conversation of that. So, obviously, I have to give this DLC a must play. You definitely need to pick it up and play it. If you're a fan of Souls games, if you're a fan of FromSoft and you want a challenge and you want some extra juicy lore and more of everything that you know and love, then you will definitely want to play Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. I can't wait to see what FromSoft cooks up next. It won't be another Elden Ring DLC from what I'm hearing, but their next game I'm sure will be a home run just like this was. I'm MTK. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.
Do it now. Smash like.